guys, welcome back to the channel. We're having a fantastic day today. So today's video is going to be a theory video I talked about last week, before I wound up doing the update video. So this week's video, or today's video, is going to be on the car that is pictured behind me, the Mark V Supra, and how, in my theory, that this isn't going to be the only instance of the Mark V we get. And by that I mean the 3.0 and the premium versions, which are automatic only, and stuff of that nature. Doug Demure highlighted this in his video really well, that Toyota left out a lot of things for aftermarket companies, that he was kind of like what inspired this video, because he had his own theory on it, that he said pretty much the same thing, that he doesn't think this is going to be it for the Supra, at least for the Mark V, which I wholeheartedly agree with. And if SEMA is anything to go based off of, with their, like, I believe they called it the Heritage Edition, Toyota really is wanting to work towards making the Supra even cooler. And we're going to talk a lot about what I feel like if they did do that, what it would be. And like in my mind, at least, if I were the guy making this special version or upgraded trim level of the Supra. So let's talk about why do I think this way? Why do I feel this way? And why does Doug Demure think this way? Probably. I feel like from many perspectives of the Mark V, Toyota really did want to make this car as good as they could make it. Obviously, a lot of people like to complain about the partnership with BMW. Obviously, it didn't really deter me that much. As a Supra fanboy myself, I would honestly say I'm a huge Mark IV fanboy. I worship the Mark IV in terms of cars. I'd love to own one day. Obviously, doubt I'm ever going to be able to unless I become like supremely rich. But the Mark V pretty much takes the Mark IV and just modernizes it a lot. Obviously, you know, the most notable thing, missing the manual transmission. But, I mean, honestly, like everyone's been complaining about, that the Mark V with the B58, whatever, obviously it's not the 3JZ everyone wanted out of the Mark V. But like Toyota has said, that if they did actually develop their own engine for the car, it would probably be costing north of 120, 130 grand, which puts it in GTR territory. And if you want to complain about the Supra's price now, put it in GTR territory and see where you sit with the same kind of power numbers of the GTR price tag. So, honestly, I feel like moving with BMW was a good decision, because I feel like we wouldn't even have a Mark V Supra if it wasn't for BMW, you know, just sacrificing the B58 to Toyota. Obviously, there's a lot of similarities to BMW. The car pretty much was unknown to BMW in terms of everything until the Z4 and the Supra were finished. And that was when BMW finally got to, you know, see obviously what Toyota had been up to during that time. They didn't even speak to each other once the power plant had been situated. Once the ZF transmission and the B58 start rolling into Toyota, you know, kind of deal. So, obviously the Supra is controversial for a lot of reasons, only mainly because of that BMW partnership. No one really seems to be hating the car too much. People who have bought them have loved them. I mean, Adamson's bought 2 of them, if that says anything. Obviously, people are loving the Mark V, and people are starting to eat their words when they were complaining about the car before release. Even that dude in blue, who was a very, 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 like, hard on the car, very hard guy against the car, has said it's fantastic to drive. And by the way, if you guys don't know, that dude was kind of like my idol on this channel, so that's why I had to make sure I referenced it at least once in this video. And in my opinion, the car just isn't done yet. The trims it's got right now are fine, and that's pretty much about it. It's stylish, it looks good, and it goes pretty quickly, and I feel like that it's selling pretty well. Obviously, there are dealership markups, which I've talked about in many videos before, such as the dealership wanting to charge, like, I think it was like almost 200 grand or something like that for the new GT500, and how the markups killed the RS and stuff like that. I feel like that people are being a bit more cautious. I feel like dealerships are still trying to do it because, oh, it's a Supra. Anyone's going to pay any amount of money for a Supra. I don't think people are going to be paying 70 to 80 grand like I've seen on Automotive and Car Gurus for the Mark V when they're supposed to be sold at like 50. But here's the thing with the Supra. I don't think this is it. I feel like Toyota put out this initial run of the 3.0 and the premium version of the car to kind of test the water, so to speak. They went through all this development, and they want to see if the car is going to sell. And if it's going to sell, they're probably their thought process, oh, it's selling really well, it's the hot topic right now, then we'll pump in another version of the car within, like, for the 2021 model year, 2022, whatever. So the car itself is doing fine. It's doing more than fine, really. Granted, I've only seen one on the road myself. I mean, it's mainly because I live in the sticks and I really don't see many cool cars around here. The most I see is like Sentras and VQ cars. And you guys know my opinions on Nissan. As far as Toyota, as the Supra goes, everything seems to be going just fine. Like I said, live in the sticks. That's why I haven't seen a lot of them in person. I haven't been to Cafe Nazi in a minute, which seems to be where the majority of them in Georgia are. Seems like they're mostly out towards Atlanta. So, anyway, I feel like that my theory is that, Toyota's just been selling really well, and I feel like from the onset that was Toyota's decision, was if the car sold really well, they would up the ante with another version of the car. And I feel like that's about where we are. Obviously, lots of things that were left out for the 3.0 in the premium cars, or the launch editions as well, like the diff coolers and, stuff for braces and stuff like that, just bolt holes everywhere for stuff that weren't on the car. And I feel like that Toyota is going to invest in making like a performance version, something like, for example, the Mark III's Twin Turbo R, to put in, all those things is missing. The diff cooler, the bracing and the extra chassis bracing and stiffness and stuff like that it could have had, that was pretty much left for aftermarket companies. It'll have a wing. It'll do, it'll probably have a little bit of upgraded exhaust. It might have a better turbo setup. I mean, they might have the boost if they don't upgrade the turbo setup, and just, any list of things. So what do I feel like it could be? I feel like it's going to be something similar to the Twin Turbo R and the Mark III was, where they just up the ante from the turbo engine. Obviously, to my understanding, the Mark III Twin Turbo R was what got the twin turbos. There wasn't twin turbos on the other ones. On the Mark III, at least, and the Mark IV, they had the RZ, and the TRD stuff going on. And I feel like we could see something like that if it's not called like the Turbo R or anything like that, because obviously it wouldn't make sense to call it the Turbo R when all the Mark Vs have turbos on them, unlike the Mark III and IV. I feel like that they would call it like the TRD or something like that, as we've seen with other Toyota models recently. The Camry now has a TRD edition, which is actually kind of snazzy and kind of quick. So, obviously, I feel like that's going to be a nameplate that would move to the Supra as well. I feel like Toyota is going to create some sort of TRD Supra, which will have upgraded boost, upgraded exhaust setup, more diff cooling, more track-focused stuff that they left out on the 3.0 and the premium cars, as well as the launch editions and what have you. So what else do I think will change? So in my opinion, if they're going to make this TRD Supra, I'm just going to call it that throughout the rest of this video, do I think the manual is going to be an option? Could be. I feel like with companies such as EAG or European Auto Group jumping into the fray and building these manual Supras, as they're now starting to roll out full kits to do it and stuff like that, full conversions. I think it would charge like $12,000 to do so. After they did their first one, which was at SEMA, I feel like that's going to definitely up the want for a manual car even more, because it was already a huge deal when Toyota announced they weren't putting a manual in the Mark V. Myself included, I complained about it because I as much as I love automatics, modern automatics are fantastic transmissions. They're just nothing beats the exhilarating connection between a manual transmission car and the driver. Obviously, automatics, they you still can shift yourself, but it's not the same as pumping a clutch pedal and moving the shifter lever yourself. And then other than pulling a paddle, just isn't quite as engaging. It's fine, it's great because it's fast and it works better for drag racing, which is what I'm into. But manuals are just a bit more engaging, and you feel more at home, I guess. Having driven a few manual cars, I've never owned one. I've driven some. I can definitely confirm that. It just feels better for me, I guess. Anyway, I feel like that'll be something that's huge that Toyota might consider. I do not expect in any way, shape, or form Toyota to make some sort of TRD edition of the Mark V, and that be the only version of the car that got a manual, if it got one at all. I really don't expect Toyota to do that. But it is something that would be wishful thinking, so that's kind of what I'm just going to say about it, is that it'd be wishful thinking for the TRD version, if that exists at all, to get a manual transmission, but I'd like to see it. Obviously, I feel like if they did it on the TRD version, it would carry down to the 3.0 and premium cars, which would be fantastic. Because it's been proven, as EAG did, that the center console doesn't need barely, if any, modifications to house a manual transmission in it. Everything works. iDrive works fine. I mean, or the Supra's version of iDrive. Other things to work fine. I don't even think it gets a check engine light from it, which is really cool. So obviously the car is still fully functional with a manual transmission. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit longer geared because it's an 8-speed auto versus a 6-speed manual on the same rear end gear. So the 8-speed's not going to have really tall rear end gears, so that's going to be a huge thing. Toyota will probably have to upgrade the gear ratios in the rear if they do put a manual in the Mark V anytime soon. But I think, honestly, it'd be cool to see like just a TRD edition of the Mark V, which is what I feel like Toyota's going to wind up doing, especially since the Mark V is improving to sell pretty well. Is I feel like that was just it. That the 3-owned premium cars that we see now in the streets, the launch editions, whatever, are all just stepping stones to something greater. And I don't feel like Toyota's going to skip out on any sort of high-performance version. Obviously, they didn't do it with the Mark IV. I mean, the Mark IV, especially overseas, because, of course, screw America, I guess, in terms of JDM cars. Overseas, the Supra got tons of, like, really good, like, more powerful additions, especially in Japan. Meanwhile, here, we got the highest performing version of the Mark IV we got was the twin-turbo, which is fine. It's a great car. I don't believe, and like off the top of my head, we got a TRD version of it here. But I do know there was a TRD Mark IV. But that's what I'm thinking. TRD actually already has a body kit and wheels and stuff like that available for the Mark V. But I feel like they'll make a TRD edition, which will have that body kit as standard, and as well as all the other little bits and bobs to make it a better track car. So, all in all, do I think Toyota is going to make that move? I absolutely think they are. The Mark V, I feel like, is just a stepping stone for something greater. I feel like Toyota did that on purpose. They built this car that had a lot of leftover things that could be added by aftermarket companies. And by that, they meant themselves a TRD. And I feel like that in the next year or two, maybe not for 2021, but maybe for 2022, we'll see a higher performance Mark V with a body kit from TRD. You know, the TRD nameplate, upgraded power, stuff like that. I highly expect that. So yeah, that's my theory on the Mark V Supra. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. Obviously, this isn't my usual content. I usually do car stuff with my own vehicle. I have a truck that I mess around with a lot if you guys are new to the channel. We're closing in on 800 subscribers, so I'm really hyped about that. We're closing in on 1,000, which is just insane. I can't thank you guys enough for the support over the time this channel's been around. It's been a long time, so let me know what kind of content you guys want to see. If you guys want to continue doing these automotive theory videos, we are gonna finally have a set date for the door handle stuff to go on. We're gonna be filming this upcoming Sunday. If you guys watch this on the day it comes out on Monday, which means we will have that up on Monday, so next Monday. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Let me know what kind of content you guys want to see this week for Wednesdays and Fridays videos. If you guys want to do more of these theory videos, just cool things in general. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe for more content coming soon. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.